Production designer Rob Harris joins the Gilbert.K show, the creative force behind Poirot, Karenina, Generation Kill, and the hit series All Her Fault, with 3 Primetime Emmy nominations to his name. From building iconic period worlds to crafting modern psychological tension, Rob breaks down how production design shapes story, emotion, and performance. Let's give a big welcome to the one and only Rob Harris.
Hey, Rob, pleasure to have you on the show. How are you today?
I'm very well, thanks. It's very nice to be here.
Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to first start with our first segment, Early Beginnings. So when you think back to your childhood, what kind of places, stories, or objects sparked your imagination and pushed you toward visual storytelling long before you knew what a production designer was?
Well, I think like all children, sort of comic books, which are basically storyboards, were very interesting to me as a child. And then when I was about 9 or 10, my parents bought a 8mm movie camera to record holidays and things, but then moved on to making small little films with the family starring. There was no sound on this very basic camera, so the storytelling was done visually, and in those days you'd send the 8mm film off, and then you wouldn't quite know what you were getting till it came back. And so I used to watch my parents editing it all together and making these stories.
That's amazing. So your parents, they were in the film industry, or
no, my parents were just enthusiastic amateurs with sort of. They bought this cine camera really just to record holidays.
Yeah, that's amazing. And were you, when you were a kid, were you enrolled in any art school or classes, workshops, or?
Basically, I was later on, but I mean, I just did the normal sort of high school thing, and so it was. We had sort of art classes, but nothing particular special about it.
Yeah. Okay, great. So what was the first moment you realized you weren't just watching words on screen? You actually wanted to build them? Was it a film, a book, a room, or something else entirely?
I think it was probably Lawrence of Arabia, which we went to see at the cinema, and basically we ended up sitting in the front row. I remember as a family, and this huge, great wide screen with Peter O'Toole striding across the Arabian desert, and it just sort of entranced me really as a film and as a sort of spectacle.
Wow. Okay. And before your professional career started, what early experiences, school, drawings, architecture, theater, even interior spaces, quite shaped your design instincts?
Yeah, well, I did art and English were my two main things at sort of at secondary, high school, and that obviously. I then went to a theatre design course in London, trained as a theatre designer, ended up working in the theatre in London a lot and doing lighting and designing sets, and did some adverts and things. So that was the sort of way in for me.
That's great. And many fans know you from iconic period work like Poirot and Karenina, but now you're designing contemporary psychological tension in All Her Fault. What connects young Rob's imagination to the storyteller you are today?
It's really, there's obviously a difference between sort of period detective drama and modern psychological drama, but they're the same really. Basically, you read a script and you service that script to and you visually tell the story of that script, whether it be a detective story or a psychological drama. So there's really not a lot of difference. And also theatre design, basically you obviously had not the ability to cut and start again, so you had to create the mood and again tell the story with what you put on the stage.
Yeah. Great. And so we're going to take a break and we're going to play a game, This or That. And it's a rapid fire game. All you have to do is choose one or two options as quickly as possible. And it's for the audience to get to know you. Are you ready, Rob?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Real locations or full studio builds?
Real locations.
Minimalist sets or layered detail?
Layered detail.
Period worlds or contemporary thrillers?
Both. Period
Yeah.
worlds.
Color-driven storytelling or texture-driven storytelling?
Color.
Color. Script breakdown first or visual mood board first?
Script breakdown.
Practical props or custom fabrication?
Practical props wherever possible.
Wherever possible. Controlled lighting setups or natural light influence?
Controlled lighting setups.
Subtle symbolism or bold imagery?
Oh dear. Bold imagery.
Fast-paced TV timelines or slow burn feature schedules?
TV timelines.
Clean continuity or creative chaos?
Creative chaos.
Okay. We're going to jump into our next segment, The Craft.
Yeah.
For people who aren't in the film industry, how would you
Mhm.
describe in simple terms what a production designer does? And what's the biggest misunderstanding you hear about your job or your craft?
So basically, production designer, you start with the script, always start with the script, and you read that script and get to know that script as better than anybody else on the show, if you possibly can. And then, obviously, you then work with directors, VOPs, producers, and you gradually come to some kind of agreement about what the overall look of the show will be, which may differ hugely from the original idea by the time it gets into production. So it's a developing sort of process. The things that people misunderstand really is the hugely purely practical element of the job where you have to make things work. So, it's always about schedules, budget, and timelines. And so people think that basically you just sit down and do some nice drawings and then it goes on. It is a very practical job, basically.
Yeah. And you have to collaborate also with other people and personalities and all that stuff.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's a very collaborative job, and unless there's a good collaboration, then it's very rarely you're going to get anything good out of it, really.
Yeah, great. So when you begin reading a new script, what are your top 3 instances that start shaping the universe you're going to create? Emotion, color, texture, architecture?
Yeah. I mean, the story, you always start with the story and what each scene is trying to move along in the overall story, the emotions of that story, and what's really important is the light in that story. So so where's the light? If you design a set, whenever you design a set, you have to know where the light comes from so that you get an image which is in your head, because the DOP is such an important part of a set.
Yeah. And is there, like, for each character, is there like a special, I don't know, tone or color, or do you use?
There can be. I mean, there certainly can be. I mean, there's always an overall color palette for a show, which basically is with the costume designer, makeup, DOP, lighting, and me, and more and more these days, visual effects. So you have to, really collaborate on that color, setup.
Got it. Okay. Your latest show, All Her Fault, has a grounded suburban world that slowly reveals layers of mystery. What was your approach to designing tension within everyday spaces without making them feel artificial?
Yeah, I mean, we worked hard with Minky, the director, and Sergio, the DOP, basically to have things in the set which, for instance, there was a lot of beveled glass screens, which distorts the image and breaks the image up and duplicates the image quite a lot. And a lot of scenes were shot through that because it's a multi-layered sort of family and a multi-layered emotional show, and to get this sort of multi-layer feel, we used a lot of that glass and reflections in glass areas, and color. We used color for the actual child Milo who's kidnapped. We used an orange for him, which when he was around we introduced. It's possibly not terribly noticeable by most people, but it kind of felt that it was sort of, we had a theme going through for Milo.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's great. And on a show like All Her Fault, how do you use set layout, color choices, or props to subtly shift the audience sense of trust, danger, and viewpoint through each episode?
Yeah, it's sort of, it was a very complicated show with lots of twists and turns, and you had to kind of take the audience through with you. So it's a very wealthy family, the house, but from the very beginning, the family starts to fall apart. So it was, basically the dressing in the main set changed, although it was a very short timeline that the show was in reality. The dressing slightly fell apart. The house kind of wasn't cleaned. It was, there were bits of sort of magazines and food around. So it was a subtle thing going all the way through on the main set, which was where a lot of the action took place.
Yeah, that's amazing. So just a follow-up question: is there a continuity? I know there's on the script continuity, but on the set design, is there somebody who was in charge of continuity just to make sure? Flowing?
So basically we have an on-set art director and a set decorator, and props and set decorating people on set. So there's sort of big meeting beforehand, and we go through because obviously 9 times out of 10 these things are not filmed in schedule, so it'd be filmed out of schedule, so we'd be going back and forth. So it was important that everybody knew what level of distress to give things and how to go back to it, and what the weather was like, because the exterior of the house was different to the interior of the house, which was a set on stage. So we had lots of meetings and went through things, and sort of my team on stage do all that.
Yeah. And you take pictures on set, like from one day to another, to make sure you're aligned with the.
Yeah. So basically, the pictures on set. But nowadays, there's so many monitors on set that sort of each department has its own monitor, and people take pictures from the monitor. So basically, you do take pictures of the set, but basically you take pictures from the monitor because you're actually recording what the show is looking at, what the actual show will be like, as opposed to a wide shot which nobody sees, perhaps. And
that's amazing.
It was particularly there's a part of the story is about color sort of appreciation. This is how some of the story comes out, and there were an awful lot of graphics which changed in one particular set. They changed, like, I think 15 times as the amount of things on the wall and what they were and how the color was taken out and color back in. So it was quite a job for the on-set team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's amazing. So whether it's a Poirot, The Devil's Whore, or All Her Fault, you always translate research into cinematic storytelling. How do you balance authenticity with a strong visual narrative that supports performance and pacing?
Well, I mean, basically the great thing about the job is that no two shows you work on is the same. So you become an expert on Roman Italy, or you become an expert on sort of Napoleonic ships for each show, and you have to do all the research, and have to know what is accurate. But it's not necessarily what ends up. If the story and the drama calls for something which isn't, or is better served by something which isn't totally 100% accurate, then I always tend to go with the story rather than the research. I mean, they're not documentaries; they're dramas, basically.
Yeah, that's great. So what's the hidden boss battle of production design? The part of the craft that's hardest to explain, but absolutely determines the quality of the final world.
I mean, basically, it's sometimes it's for you have to fight for something which isn't what everybody sees when they read the script, and it's not you're not always right. But if you have a strong feeling about something, then you have to kind of fight for that. And sometimes there's even things which aren't on the page which you get an instinct to do. So basically, you have to back your instincts and go for it, really.
Yeah. And collaboration is everything. What does the ideal creative rhythm between production, designer, director, cinematographer feel like to you? And did All Her Fault bring any unique collaborations to the table?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously incredibly important that you're on the same wavelength as directors, DOPs, costume designers, makeup, visual effects, but also producers who start the ball rolling, have some ideas which you have to work with as well, and you have to have very early conversation. In an ideal world, you have the DOP starting very early, so that the director, the DOP, and me can sit down and actually come to some sort of slow conclusion about what the finished product should look like. It won't be set in stone, but we all sit down and talk. And for On All Her Fault, we had to have lots of conversations about how we were going to convince people that we were in Chicago when we actually shot it in Melbourne. And it wasn't a huge visual effects budget, so we did have some visual effects, but it wasn't that we could rely on visual effects. So we had to sit down and work out how we could best achieve that between us, really.
Wow. So what was it all shot in studio, probably, right? On a lot of
there was a lot of location work, because I mean, bizarrely, sort of both Chicago and Melbourne are cities on rivers, modern cities on rivers. The Centre Park. There was a lot of studio work, and we did a lot of. We actually filmed it on a volume stage, so instead of having a sort of a painted backing or a translight, we had a video, basically stuff we shot outside the windows of what ostensibly was Lake Michigan, outside the windows of the main house, which we shot in various different lights, in various different weathers, day and night, and so we could instantly go from day on set to night on set with the backing, which was the first time I'd done that. So it was it's quite a sort of involved process, really.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. So we're gonna move on to our final break, Rob.
Okay.
And we're gonna play a game, True or False, and it's time to test some facts about your life and career. Are you ready, Rob?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Okay. True or false? A single paint color can change the emotional tone of a scene. True or false?
Absolutely true. True.
True or false? Production design often starts before the final cast is confirmed.
True. Always.
Always. True or false? The best sets are the ones the audience doesn't consciously notice.
True, but not necessarily always true.
True or false, a good set can improve an actor's performance.
Well, absolutely true. Yeah.
True or false, historical accuracy sometimes has to bend for storytelling impact.
True.
And true or false, the camera sees mistakes no human eye would ever catch.
Absolutely true. Yeah.
True or false, good design can save a budget.
Yeah. Very, very true.
Very true. True or false, most beautiful sets are actually built around how the camera moves.
True. Yeah. You have to. If you can do the most beautiful set in the world, but if you can't film it, it's no point.
Yeah, that's true. True or false, designing for thrillers is harder than designing for period dramas.
No, not true.
No. And finally, true or false, if the word feels real, the audience forgives everything else.
Yeah, true. Yeah. You
True.
create your world, and as long as you don't break your rules within your own world, the audience accepts it.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna jump into our final segment, Emmys and Wisdom. You've been nominated for 3 times for the Primetime Emmys. What did those seasons of work teach you about leadership, problem solving, and trusting your artistic voice?
Yeah, so you have to convince everybody that you can, for instance, deliver Iraq in South Africa, or Napoleonic warships on a tank somewhere, and you have to convince production, convince the director, convince everybody. Then you have to convince your team that it's possible, and then you have to convince yourself as well. So it's a sort of it's a confidence thing, basically, that you have to go through.
Wow, that's amazing. So each of your nominated projects, Generation Kill, Poirot, Hornblower, and others, had massive world building challenges. Which nomination pushed you the hardest creatively, and why?
I think Generation Kill, because we were, as I said, we were filming Iraq in southern Africa. So we moved from Namibia through South Africa to Mozambique with 20 period Humvees, all the equipment, all the guns, and crossing borders and finding literally hundreds and hundreds of locations which were convincing. I had to convince the writers, David Simon and Ed Burns, and also we had the real Marines with us, so acting themselves in some cases. So it was a very challenging job, and it's a huge road movie.
Wow. That's amazing. Looking at your body of work now, especially transitioning between period pieces and psychological thrillers like All Her Fault, what evolution in your style are you most proud of?
Being able to come up with solutions, whatever the content or style of the show, and wherever it's been filmed, because it's very rare you film somewhere where you're supposed to be. You always end up somewhere which you have to make look like somewhere else. It's actually you're most proud of making the show better than if you hadn't been there, basically. By being there, you've made it better.
That's great. And finally, for young designers watching and dreaming, especially those who feel intimidated by the size of the industry, what is the one piece of actionable advice you would want them to carry into their careers?
I think you have to basically take whatever work is offered, whatever level, whatever work. Being on a set is the best way to get where you want to go. And once you're there, you have to work as hard as you can. Basically, it's like any job. You have to stand out from other people. It's okay to be scared, but you don't show it. You have to be practical. You have to get on with people. That's the really, and you have to have ideas. If once you start been able to design, given the opportunity to design shows, I think what I'd say is always know where the source of light is on whatever set you're doing, so that basically, you know where the DOP is going to put the light because you put a window there, and he may not know it or she may not know it, but you've decided where the light comes from, which is, good 75% of what makes a set look good or not.
Yeah, that's amazing. So just a follow-up question. So Rob, you've done it all. You have 3 Primetime Emmys. You've worked on big projects. Do you have any dream project you would like to work on?
I've never done a Western. I always liked Westerns as a child, so I've never actually done a Western. So I'd quite like to do one of those. They're not very much in favor at the moment, but a Western would be good.
Yeah. Okay, let's put it out to the universe. You'll never know.
Yeah.
Okay, Rob, we're nearing the end of the show. That's all, folks. Thank you for watching. Rob Harris, everyone. Thank you, Rob.
Okay, thanks.
Pleasure.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.